with everything out of the way, we can now actually start talking about dodging. First thing I want to bring your attention to is the fact that I have chosen a katana, and the reason you see katana a lot in guide videos, streamer use them, is because katana have a very distinct animation set. It's very obvious what animation state a katana is in comparing to other weapons. And in this game, particularly related to dodges, there's actually something I want to draw your attention to is that two different animation states. Right now, my character is in non-combat state, like her hands are resting on either side. And if I make an attack and if I just let the animation finish, you notice she puts her hand on the sword hilt. While she's in this animation, it's in combat state. And after a while, if you don't do anything, after a while, the character will go back to non-combat state. This is a really subtle difference, but they actually change, has an impact, a drastic impact actually on dodges. Just know this background information that there are two different states that actually exist, and we'll come back to this as I am explaining how to do different types of dodges. In this game, as far as for us casual player concerns, there are three different types of dodges, and those three different types of dodges, once you master them, it suffices for 99% of the time. And all the other additional dodges are just like combination and slight variation based on those threes, and that give you a slight edge in very, very specific situations, and really only pro fighting other pros that will make a difference. So the first type of dodge is a tab dodge. That's a tab dodge. The second type of dodge is hold dodge. And the third type of dodge is mid dodge. By default, everybody can do the first two types of dodge, but in order to do a mid dodge, you have to change the settings. So let me show you that right now. If you come to settings, gameplay, and if you scroll down to auto run, I think by default it's like hold. And if you have that on, you press a hold shift, your character is gonna just start running, right? But if you turn that off to off, and you press hold shift, your character just do this like little skip forward. It's actually a form of dodge. We'll just call it the mid dodge. I'll explain like why it's useful later on. The next thing I want to draw your attention to is if you're dodging, you notice there is a like white shadow trailing behind your character. When this happens, that means you have invincibility frame. For the duration those shadow exists, your character, any attack that would otherwise hit your character would just miss. So if you don't see those trailing shadow, that means your dodge either do not have invincibility frame or it's very, very short. The invincibility frame is very, very short. This is kind of just the background information I want to kind of let you know about, and I will explain. They will come handy later on when I explain the different type of dodges. The first type of dodge we're going to talk about in detail is the tab dodge, and in this game, the order in which you press your keys are super important. And like the saying goes, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I want you to press the key slow. And because if you press the key in the wrong order, it will fail. And if you press the key at the same time, which most people do, you will fail. So in order to correctly perform a tab dodge, you want to press direction key, then shift, okay? Direction key, then shift, direction key, then shift, direction key, and then shift. If you didn't press direction key before you press shift, it's going to turn into a roll. Let me show you. And you do not want that. So if you see a roll, that means you have failed to do a tab dodge. But it's not end of the world in the sense the roll is still has the invincibility frame. So for the purpose of like avoiding damage, it still works. But the roll, as you can see here, it rolls forward. And when we're doing tab dodges, we're trying to create distance because tab dodge is the most defensive dodge out of the three. It's the fastest way for you to create distance between you and the enemy, and that's also what it's been used for primarily, is to disengage. And if you end up rolling, then you basically just resets your direction back into basically the enemy. So if you see a roll, you have failed a tap dodge. Alright, for the purpose of this exercise, I recommend you to use the katana. This way my animation look the same as your animation if you press the same keys. So it's easy to kind of follow along. And earlier I mentioned there's a difference. There's an impact to the dodges depending if you are in combat animation state or non-combat animation state. Particularly, like you saw earlier, my when I did a tap dodge, my character looked like this, right? And maybe when you try to do this and your character doesn't look like it. That's probably because you are in out of animation combat state. Like right now it's non-combat animation state, and I tried to do a tap dodge, the same key input. It looked different, and it actually have a positive benefit as far as the tap dodge goes, is you dodge further if you are outside of combat state. If I stand over here and I try to do 3 consecutive tap dodges without rolling, this is how far I can go if I'm in outside of combat animation state. But if I'm inside of combat animation state, I can only get to here, right? So it's significantly further if you are in non-combat animation state if you do a tap dodge. And maybe you're asking, well, I can't just stand in front of the enemy and wait until basically my character get out of combat, right? That's impossible. Well, there's something you can do, basically force your character. There are several things actually you can do to force your character to immediately go into non-combat state. Then you can follow that up with dodges. The most common one is if you press jump, then you press C immediately, then followed by tap dodging, and the crouching animation will force you to be outside of combat state, and so your tap dodge will be the longer version right after that. The reason I'm showing this is not that I want to master this, because this is one of those dodges I consider only pro use to gain a slight advantage, but I just want to point out the difference this way, that if you're trying to do the same thing and your dodge look different, and you understand why. But I mean, for casual players, you don't need to like master this dodge. But knowing that exists, if one day you decided that you need that extra edge, then you can practice those things. But this difference will be important on the later section when we talk about hold dodge, because it's very important for hold dodge to be in combat state, and it's the opposite. But as far as practice goes, the fate training mode is not the best place to practice dodge, because as you can see, your character have stamina, and if you're out of stamina, you can't dodge anymore. So it's really difficult for you to kind of repeatedly practice dodges in the free training mode. So for that purpose, we're actually going to go into the lobby. Let me show you. Once in your lobby, and you notice over here there's like a weapon rack icon. If you click on that, you can choose which weapon you want to display in lobby, and then you press tab, and this brings you to this kind of area where kind of social lobby, right? You can see other players, and the good thing about in the social lobby is you do not have stamina, like you have infinite stamina. So what I like to do is I'll find a quiet place, for example right here. I come here just so there's no like other player distracting me, and since I have infinite stamina over here in the lobby, this is the best place to practice all kinds of dodges. The exercise I want you to do is hold the blue. So you are inside of combat state, either hold the blue, right, or do an attack, and then followed by consecutive tap dodges without rolling, like that over there I failed. This is what you want to try to do. you should be able to do 9 consecutive tab dodges backwards. That's like the first exercise. Before your character goes back into like non-combat state. And this is the first exercise you want to do. And you can also try, this is like a non-combat state tab dodge, right? It's just further, but it's basically the same thing. The input's the same. Do this, and once you can basically do this back to back like 10 different times without like rolling, then you can progress to the next exercise. The next exercise I want you to do is mixing out left and right tab dodges. This is left tab dodge, this is right tab dodge, and we just repeat the two of them without rolling, right? If you end up rolling like this or like this, then you have failed. Basically, that's the next exercise. That's the second exercise you want to do, is be able to do consecutive left-right tab dodges without rolling. And third exercise after that is mixing all three, like backward and left-right. So it'd be something like this. Remember what I said about slow, smooth, fast, and most of the time, very, very common, what's going to happen is this, right? You successfully dodge the first time, and then it just turns into a roll on the subsequent ones. Like this is also very common, like on the third one. All of those are guaranteed to be because you either press the shift key before you press the direction key, or you press the direction key and the shift key at the same time. It's probably more common to be the latter. Is you press it turns into roll because you press direction key and the shift key at the same time. So you do have to press direction key before. If you take it slow, then the chance of you succeeding is much higher. A good way to kind of practice this is actually start by dodging backward twice to kind of get used to the finger feeling, and then start doing left and right. Then you probably have a much higher chance of succeeding. Right? And also, it's not end of the world that if you end up rolling. Like I messed up a lot too, like you can see right here, I messed up a lot too, and the more consistent you are with it, the better it is. But in real combat, you're never gonna dodge more than 3 times consecutively. So if the third one turns into a dodge, most likely you are already like in the clear already. But the good thing is we want to practice, to be as smooth as possible, right? After you have basically feel confident that you can correctly press the right button consistently, we have to come back to the free training mode again, because in actual combat we do have the limitation of the stamina. So it's very important you get the feeling, get used to like how many dodges you can do in a situation that simulates combat, and I think it's free training mode is great to do that. So once we come to the free training mode, you come to custom action practice, and my suggestion is you choose a lone sword, and then you have the character hold like maybe 4 or 5 horizontal charges, right? And he's gonna just do this, and what you want to do is just get used to the timing. And with lone sword, if you dodge backwards, a lot of the time you basically dodge back into the hitbox and you end up getting hit again. So for different weapons, it's better to dodge sideways than dodge backwards. Some weapons it's better to dodge backwards. And the next exercise we want to do is to time your dodges at the end of combo to simulate when you are getting hit, right? We know that if you attack somebody like this, the enemy is able to get the turn back after your second hit. And same goes for focus attack. If you charge focus attack, the enemy will get a chance back to do something after, like at the end of the on-hit animation. So basically you will try to beat the bot this time by select the sparring partner, free training, the balance training, and just let them hit you. And then as soon as you are able to, do 1 or 2 tap dodges, right? Same goes with like if you got knocked down, you would try to use tap dodge to create distance. And if you want the bot to use a different weapon, just reset, and then there will be chances he's going to switch to a different weapon. Like you let the bot hit you, then just get used to the timing and when is the earliest that you can dodge. And another thing you will notice that really helpful is if you pan your camera sideways, this way you can see really clearly the distance between you and the enemy. It helps you to kind of know how far you have gone. And just do this practice by resetting the training ground so the bot will use different weapons. Right, and just let the bot hit you and react to it afterwards. And that's a really great training for stimulating actual combat. Another thing I want to talk about is tap dodge have the benefit of having long long invisibility frame and long distance. However, its drawback is it has a longer wind down animation, meaning like it takes some time for you to be able to do the next move. So experienced player, and sometimes even if you're fighting the bot, you will notice this, is you will do a tap dodge, then the bot just dodge toward the same direction you are going, and he will end up catching you a second time as you are getting out of this initial dodge you did. And that's normal, and that's the disadvantage of tap dodge. However, in trail mode, if you attempt tap dodge, your success chance is very, very high because it's very chaotic due to the fact that it's trail mode, you have your teammate, it's multiple people fighting. So tap dodging out of combat in trail mode works 90% of the time. But if you go play solo, or if you find yourself in trail mode but doing 1v1s, and you try to tap dodge away, and then the opponent is a veteran, then it's likely they will take advantage of that. So use tap dodge more sparingly if you find yourself in a 1v1 situation. And the next thing to know is tap dodge should be followed up with additional actions to make it kind of stronger. The best thing, one thing I recommend a new player to try is hold the blue right after you tap dodge. Just do this. Tap dodge, hold the blue, tap dodge, hold the blue. And like I said earlier, holding blue is defensive posture, and it's intimidating because people has to guess if you're going to release the blue or not, so they are forced to react. And by doing this, if you create distance and immediately getting the blue, then the player that was trying to focus fire on you have to take a pause, because they can't just come over and keep hitting you, because they risk getting counterattacked by your focus attack. And at the same time, or either that, or they want to gamble that you're going to parry, so they will come up to you and do a parry. But regardless of what they do, it's buying you additional time, right? You are getting hit and tap dodge away, and they hold the blue, and give you time to react and basically see what enemy is doing. Even if you're practicing against bot, you will notice this a lot more. If you just tap dodging, the bot is just gonna keep chasing after you and trying to hit you. But if you tap dodge and hold the blue, tap dodge and hold the blue, the bot will often try to parry, or the bot will kind of just stand there and kind of wait. And like you see the bot kind of just skirting around. He's not as aggressive as he used to be. And he sometimes has to switch to parry like this, like 3 times in a row already. Same thing happened with real player. However, if I don't hold the blue, I just dodge away, the bot just gonna keep on following me and trying to hit me, and kind of keeping the pressure on. Then the game is a whole lot less chaotic because you are forcing the enemy to slow down by tap dodging and holding blue. That's all I have to say about tap dodging. And next up, I'm going to talk about hold dodging.